Update. We, husband 32 male and me 26 female, have been told by his brother 37 male and sister-in-law 30s female that we should supply all Christmas gifts for the kids due to our lack of kids. Original post. My husband has a very large family. In total, I think his father has 8 brothers/sisters. They all got married and had 2 to 6 children each. Now all their children are grown up and starting families as well. We're looking at easily, I believe, 15 children and the family is off right now. We all get together for Christmas every year at his grandparents' house. Sounds great, right? Right. Normally after Thanksgiving or on Thanksgiving, which they also all get together for, we pick names for the children's gift swap. There is also a man and women gift swap which my husband and I, who do not have children, join in on. Now, to give you an idea of how the gifting has been the last 10 years, husband and I would buy gifts for his parents, his brother and wife and their 4 kids. Great. Awesome. Works fine. Last year they said they would rather we just bought gifts for the kids. So we did. Same thing we'd always gotten them books at their reading level, PJs and puzzles of some kind. They were upset, but we couldn't place why. We also didn't get any gifts at all, which we didn't comment on. But my husband admitted he was a bit hurt to get nothing from his parents versus his brother and sister-in-law getting gifts. I am not a super social person, so I spent most of Thanksgiving reading a book and watching one of the youngest cousins sleep. Eventually, we all gathered up so the kids could draw names of their cousins for the gift swap. They finished that up, and then husband's brother, who we'll just call Timmy, says, "And uncle, my husband, will buy all the kids a gift too." Cue my husband and I giving him looks of "the heck and screw you." We laughed and said, "Oh no, haha, we'll just be bringing the candy again this year." His brother then started in that we should buy all of the children gifts since we have none, and that it wasn't very Christian of us not bless the children with our good fortune. My husband at this point pulled him aside into the kitchen and told him he wasn't buying all of the cousins' gifts, and if he wanted to, he was welcome too. They started to argue and Timmy yelled that we should not come for Christmas anymore. I handed over the baby. We left, said we'd email them about it later when they calmed down enough to talk like adults. I would just like someone else's viewpoint. My husband is really upset, and his parents are agreeing with Timmy that we should be giving more gifts, since we have no one to buy them but for kids now. He threw the fact that we get no gifts from anyone at them, and they said we were adults now, and Christmas is for kids. He pointed out they gifted Tim and his wife things still, but they said that we'd already bought it, might as well. But I have been shopping with his mother, and she bought gifts for Tim and his wife candy again this year already. I'm frustrated, and feel like no one is handling any of this well. I don't want to step in and help my husband, but I want someone else to look at this mess before I do anything other than listen and offer suggestions of using "I feel blank when you blank" to his parents. Edit. Replied to some comments, showed husband thread, send email. Haven't been answering phone calls from them. Ask them to please just read and reply via email so that we have time to think and respond calmly. Got a lot of nasty voicemails for it. Going to let them simmer some more and keep ignoring their calls since they keep yelling. Now for the top advice before reading the first update. Holy crap, what a bunch of selfish and manipulative people. That's the most ridiculous suggestion I've ever heard. Now, I don't know if you're child-free, not at that stage in your life yet, or have been trying but haven't conceived, but it doesn't freaking matter. Just because you don't have kids doesn't mean you have to buy presents for everyone else's kids. That's insane. I don't even know how anyone would justify that, honestly. If it comes up again, ask them to explain why they think that's an appropriate thing to ask, and state that while you are glad to have all your nieces and nephews, you don't think it's reasonable for you to be expected to buy them all gifts. Ask if they are going to get you a present from every one of your nieces/nephews. If they bring up that you're not being very Christian BS, remind them that true Christianity is not about material goods. It's about love, not cheap crap from Walmart. His brother and sister-in-law are butthurt that Opie and Hubs have disposable income and probably have nicer things and less stressful life. Taking care of 6 people at a max only for 2 working is still hard unless they make real good money. They sell kazoos in bulk in Amazon for under $6. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Don't forget to encourage the kids to play them as often as possible to develop their musical skills. After all, music helps kid with math or whatever. So, you're supposed to buy gifts for 15 kids since you don't have any? And you get kicked out of Christmas if you don't. Sounds like it's time to start a new tradition that doesn't involve insane relatives. Maybe a cruise. Cruises are nice. This is the craziest part to me. Just no semblance of logic. I have 2 kids, so I buy presents for my 2 kids. You have no kids? You have to buy presents for 15 kids. How the heck do you arrive at that conclusion? Now for the first update. Thanks for everyone who came and tossed in their 2 cents. It was wonderful to hear from other people without having to worry if they would repeat my chatter to the other party involved. So, I'm not 100% sure where I should start. I am about 3 drinks in just to calm myself. For one, I did show my husband a post after we talked. I brought up T-Day 2015. It asked him if he wanted some more input that I normally give on his family drama. He said yes. I pointed out the favoritism of his brother over him in almost anything. I made a list showing times when it had happened where they and he were fully in the wrong just to prove the point. We went over the texts from his brother, sister-in-law, mother, father, aunt, and cousin. Just to recap names. Brother Timmy, sister-in-law Candy, mother Rhonda, father Keith, aunt Kira, cousin Ben, husband Todd. This is shorter than husband. I'm lazy. So the day I posted after we went over the text, which started after we missed their call, and went up until we sent the email, all just spiteful garbage about how we waste our money, time and life volunteering and don't spend enough time with our children, /cousins, /cousins' children, /family anymore. It started out telling Todd he was being a candy butt B-word who was whipped by his cold, harpy child-hating wife, and just degraded from there. Todd only sent back a few saying he'd email him about it and asking him to not talk about me. So we sent the email. Here is basically what we sent. I semi-edited it. Todd sends it as if it was just from him. We almost added in his parents, but decided we'd just forward it to them if it really got out of hand. No problem. Timmy did it for him. Tim, I'm sending you an email so we can talk about what happened on Thanksgiving. I think this would be better for us both since when we are heated we say things rashly. You didn't give me much time to really think about it, so here it goes. I don't understand why you volunteered us to buy gifts. We are happy to buy gifts for your children as we have every year. Is there something going on? Is someone having financial problems? Well, we would gladly help anyone who asks. As we have before, you should recall Kathy and Kiki 2 years ago. We helped too. Being set up in front of young children was rude. Not to mention you telling us we aren't allowed at Christmas now. The texts and angry voicemails were also uncalled for. Please take some time and get back to me. I hope we can work this out as our family is very important to us. Todd. Yes, well, that went over about as well as water on a grease fire. For one, Timmy forwarded the email to Rhonda and Keith, Kira and Ben. That was rude, but we were going to do the same way either way. Ben sent us an email letting us know what Timmy did and said he was sorry he wasn't there to jump in, but would try and talk to Timmy. Timmy and Ben are actually really close, so it was nice to see he thought Timmy was being unreasonable as well, since they are normally very close / like-minded. I'm not going to put his email here. I'm just going to highlight what is said then tell you what Keith and Rhonda said in their email / visit. I'm a cold, child-hating harpy and I sleep around. I'm an atheist, or a Muslim, or something he never really picked. I am dragging Todd from the church and his family. We don't spend any time at all with the family anymore. We never spend any time with our nibblings. We are wasting our life / time / money volunteering with animals. Helping / wanting to help refugees was un-American, and this is my fault since I'm a first-generation American and don't understand what it means to be one / deserve to live here. I'm rude and never talk to them unless it's about animal rescue / animal rights. Yeah, so, At this point, we're kinda laughing and kinda crying and kinda shocked. We spent the rest of the day cleaning up our house and talking about what we wanted to do / reply back. We hadn't checked our email and we'd stuck our phones on vibrate and we're just trying to enjoy our day off together. They're pretty rare, sadly. So surprise, his parents drove all the way out to talk to us. I say talk, but it was more like being talked at. They asked me to leave so they could talk to Todd about his actions / rude email. Todd said no, said I was his family and his wife and we were handling this together. They then tried to convince us we had said the F word in front of the family. We didn't. That we had mentioned buying gifts for everyone before. That we didn't love Jesus anymore since we hadn't been going to church. And some of what Timmy has sent in the email too. When his father started to insult me and then in turn my father, Todd was done. He stood up and said, "Thank you for coming to visit us in our home for the first time, but we have errands to run and you need to leave now." They refused. He told them they had to go now or he'd have to call the police. They left. He cried, I cried, our cats knocked over their cups. We ended up calling my dad and told him everything, as well as showing him both emails. He told us they have before talked trash about me/us to him. "We should be able to fix your child still, we're still working in hours," was something he told us had been said. We decided we aren't going to their Christmas either way. I told Todd I can't go back there again, nor can I look at any of them the same again. I knew they'd always not like me as much as some of the other daughter-in-laws, but I didn't know it was to that extent. They have always been nice and polite to my face, invited and included me in all events. No one had ever said anything to Todd either. As it stands, I'm waiting for my dad and brother to get into town, and then we're going to sit down and decide what we would like to do. Todd said he just wants it to be small, and doesn't mind where Christmas happens and said he felt closer to my dad and brother anyway. We told Ben what happened and shipped his gift to him. I haven't decided yet what I will do with the Nibblings gifts, but I already donated all of the adult gifts. Edit. I'd also like to add I'm not of another ethnicity. My father is German and moved to the US when he was 20 to marry my mother. So I'm a pasty white chick, but I guess since my dad isn't American, that's bad. Now for more comments before the final update. This is really awful. But what stood out to me was how united the two of you are in this. It sucks for Todd that he now has a full realization of how terrible his family is. That's hard for him, and I know he's going to be dealing with a lot of emotions from this. But the two of you took this hit together, and that's awesome. So a bit of silver lining maybe? We weren't always this way. When we went through my family drama with my mother, sisters, and her family and some of my dad's, it was hell. We were not united. He was semi-friends with my mother and she sob-storied him into believing a lot of lies I had come to question about my childhood. So we then fought like cats and dogs until finally he listened, and I spoke what I was thinking and feeling. It could have ended then. I would have my dad and brother and nothing else, but we worked it out. We communicated, forgave each other, made a game plan for handling my mother's manipulative BS, and went to war. In the end, I would do anything for Todd, and even put up with going and being around his family again next year once the wounds healed a bit. I know it will be a lot harder for him to give up on them than it would be for me too. I suggested we both revisit the therapist I was seeing before when we dealt with my family. I think it will help him identify some other issues. Thanks for reading and a chain of comments/compliments. We both appreciate it. Our cats knocked over their cups. Your cats are pretty badass. Seriously though, I'm sorry. But it sounds like you and your husband have been handling this like a united front, and that's awesome. He demanded love. The other cats cleaned up the water. It worked out. 10 over 10 would adopt 4 cats again. I'm proud of your husband for standing up for you. Go him. His family sucks. They really are terrible, greedy people. You were better off without them. It always sucks when a partner is wrapped into the manipulation of their family. Nice to see them sticking together for a change. This is kind of like our second rodeo, only we didn't see it coming at all. Now for the final update. I wish this update was we all made up and Christmas will be so great, but it's not. Yesterday we had a small Christmas party with some friends, since we will be leaving the 24th for a holiday. Myself, Todd, Dad, and brother who I'll name Theo. My friend Sandy grew up near me. We've been friends for years and she became friends with Timmy and his wife too. They're friends together on Facebook. We had told her that there was a tiff but didn't elaborate to not damage their friendship. Big mistake. Since she tagged us in her "ooh, look at my gift" /QQ my friend is leaving for my Christmas post. The photos of the two of us drinking while dancing around her new Roomba. I will note this isn't just for her Christmas. It's for her Christmas, birthday, and her wedding, as well as a housewarming gift. Her and her soon-to-be husband Bill just bought a new townhouse near us. I normally wouldn't buy something that expensive just for Christmas. So, Timmy saw the post. Not only did it take offense to us drinking, none of them drink / are against drinking. He really flipped his lid about her getting a Roomba. He lost his crap in the comments and then showed up at our apartment. I was in the shower when Timmy showed up. I heard someone knocking on the door, which had to be pretty loud to hear it all the way into the master's bedroom shower. I finished the shower around midway through Todd and Tim fighting. Todd said he was beating the door down. He opened the door and refused to let Tim in any further than the hallway. Tim was yelling at him about the gift, about his lack of church going, about his going out of town, demanding his kids' gifts. I donated them, and asking where we got off buying such a pricey gift for someone who isn't related, and being selfish a-holes about gifting the other children. So around this point, I come out of the shower after putting on PJs. It's nearly 1 a.m. now. I came out to see Timmy. I'm kinda shocked. Todd tells Tim it's late and we can't talk about this when we get back from holiday with the pastor. He pushes Todd. Todd falls back into the wall, putting a dent into it. This woke my dad and Theo. I moved in front of Todd since Tim was pulling back to hit him. He hit me, knocking me down on top of Todd. Dad and Theo restrained him. Our next door neighbor was woken up and called 911. Cops showed up, separated all of us. We told them what had happened, didn't tell them about the other problems. Shorted it up to there had been a Christmas disagreement. They also called an ambulance since Todd cut his arm on a dish that broke, and my face was quickly turning purple. The EMS showed up, no Todd, and was very upset about him and I being hurt. The cops asked us if we wanted to press charges. I started to say no, but Todd said yes. So Tim was arrested, and we went to the ER since Todd needed some stitches. Our phones have been blowing up ever since. I turned mine off after I told Sandy she needed to not let Tim and Candy see any posts about us, since they're pissed at us. She said okay. I went through and unfriended/grouped anyone who was also friends with any in-law/family into a restricted group so they can't see anything we're up to again. I hope. Rhonda and Keith have been blowing up Todd's phone. He's only answered them in text with what happened, that we would not drop charges or pay his bail, and to stop contacting us at all. Between the last update and this one, we had talked to some of the other family members and they all said they disagreed with Timmy. His grandparents said they did too, but that they couldn't host the Christmas and couldn't stop him from uninviting us. They said they would talk to him and we were like, okay, cool. Maybe by next year we can be friends again. That isn't the case anymore. At all. There is no coming back from this. We'll be filing a restraining order when we get home. Todd is talking about us moving out of our home state. Dad and Theo think this is a good idea. Dad is annoyed that I wouldn't let him hit Tim, so is sulking a bit. But I think it's more that he's upset that we have lost another family basically. So yeah. I get to enjoy my trip with a black eye/cheek. Todd has a 4-inch gash on his arm. Dad is sulking and Theo is happy since he's smoking pot. So A+ Christmas. Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law I don't care about her feelings when it comes to how my kids are treated by their cousins? My husband is my mother-in-law's child from her second marriage. She has 2 older children from her first marriage, and the 2 kids from the first marriage never accepted my husband. Now, according to my husband, as kids, they weren't inherently mean to him, just very distant and disinterested in a relationship with him. But they became more unkind to him as they all got older, and my husband tried to bridge the gap. At the time, his mom was very active in trying to stop that behavior and get the kids to accept my husband as their brother. My husband said she spent a long time trying to make things work, but they didn't. When my husband was 17, his sister got married and there was a big fight at his house between his mom and older siblings, where they said nothing she ever did made them love him, and they had no interest in having him as a brother. That they were fine when they were younger because they could ignore him a lot easier, but they never ever cared for him and would have been happy had he never been born. Despite this, my husband has tried to at least keep a civil relationship with them. It has on a few occasions seen their kids at family functions. We put a stop to contact completely though, when his brother's youngest, 7, spat at our 4-year-old during my husband's grandparents' anniversary barbecue in May. This was not the first time their kids had been mean to mine, but it was the first time they straight up defended the child's action in front of everyone as it not mattering, because in their family, our kids did not matter a single bit. Mother-in-law was outraged, as were the rest of the people there, including the grandparents. But mother-in-law still expected us to try and promote a cousin relationship between our kids and my husband's siblings' kids. My husband told her he wanted to protect our kids from the rejection, and was done. She tried appealing to me as a mother, and how hurt her feelings were that her grandkids would grow on opposite side of a feud, which didn't work because as I told her that when it came to my children and how they are being treated, her feelings are nowhere near the priority list. I told her I understood it must be hard to have this happen with people you love, but she has got to accept that the family from her second marriage don't deserve to be punished for being part of the wrong marriage. She tried to dispute that, but it's true. Her kids never liked that she remarried after her divorce. And anyone born from or brought in from that remarriage is never going to be worthy or a real person in their eyes. They will always be an unwanted nuisance because of that. So it's time to cut the cord and remove that kind of energy from our lives. She's pissed that I dismissed her feelings in the way I did it, but my husband thanked me for having his back and has been hearing from his mom that I'm an a-hole, which he told her wasn't true and that she should listen to me. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. This is not like they got in a little pushing match at the barbecue. The kid spat in your kid's face. Kids don't naturally do that. He was encouraged to do that. His parents have taught him at a young age to hate his cousin, and that's sad. You're just protecting your kids. Also, was the second marriage the result of an affair? This type of hurts and hate isn't normal. The second marriage wasn't, no. From what I know, the first marriage ended because mother-in-law thought she could change her first husband, and anyone who knew them back then knew she was crazy and it would end badly, which it did. Not the a-hole. If your husband's half-siblings are so resentful, literally decades later, that their parents are no longer together, that they're encouraging their kids to take it out on a 4-year-old, there's something wrong with them. I can't even imagine an adult being that petty about something that happened, 25 years ago? The divorce was actually 30-ish years ago now. It confuses the hell out of me that they wouldn't take a step back and decide not to come when they hate my husband and our kids so much. Not an a-hole. His older siblings are a-holes, and while I don't think the mother-in-law is one and understand her wanting her grandchildren to get along as a family, it just won't happen anytime soon. It is quite clear her eldest children have no interest in their brother's side of the family, so screw them. I only really found out as an adult that on my dad's side, we were never really accepted, because his mom hated my mom because she was his second partner to have kids. And my grandmother's eyes, only my 2 eldest brothers from my dad's first partner were her grandchildren. We never really saw that side of the family, so it never really came up. Just figured dad didn't get along with them or they lived further away. My brother's partner added one of our cousins on Facebook from my dad's side. She was adding all the extended family basically, wanting to basically be part of the family. And was point blank told by her that she doesn't care about her, because my brother and I aren't really part of the family, and only our oldest brothers are her real cousins, or something along those lines. So that's stuff that has basically been ingrained in my cousins' heads though their entire lives, and I don't see it's ever changing. It's toxic, and best to just cut them out. I don't think it'll ever happen. I see this just passing through the generations for a long time to come. The level of disdain they have for my husband and children is shocking, given the reason. I have heard of people having no interest in their half-siblings or step-siblings, or even resenting/disliking them. But to the level of hatred they show for innocent children goes beyond anything I have seen before. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not returning my rings to my dead husband's family? Danielle and I were married for 1.5 years, together for 7. I received an engagement ring, wedding ring, and eternity band from him as a wedding anniversary gift for 1 year married. Danielle died in an accident, not sharing what due to privacy, at the beginning of the year, and my heart was broken. It still doesn't feel real, but I'm trying to live life the way he'd want me to every day. I haven't had much contact with his family since the funeral 6 months ago. I suppose we were all hurting and need to heal. Then yesterday, my ex-sister-in-law messaged me on Facebook. I'm a bit of an overshare on Facebook, and they knew about my eternity ring as well as the other rings. My sister-in-law wants me to return all the rings to them, as they say that Daniel paid for them, and because he has died, they belong to the family. And my mother-in-law also told me to do this too. I've already given them back his childhood stuff he had, along with photos he had before I met him. But the rings are deeply sentimental to me. I'd be okay with giving them a plain wedding band, but the 2 others are beautiful, expensive, $19,000 combined, and remind me of the best time of my life. I'd give them my husband's wedding ring, but he was worried wearing it. Now I'm getting squeezed by his family to give them these rings, and I don't know if they just want them to sell her own or what. Sister-in-law even said she will look into law if I don't give them back, and that I'm an a-hole for keeping them out of the family where they belong. Daniel and I didn't have kids, so I suppose I'm no longer family. Am I the a-hole if I don't give the rings to my in-laws? Now for the top comments. Not an a-hole. Asking for a widow's wedding ring 6 months after losing her husband is deeply messed up. I'd cut all ties with these people. Let your A-Hall sister-in-law get a lawyer. It will be a waste of her money because those rings are yours. They were gifts. These people are disgusting. They aren't family heirlooms. They're just nice things they want to be able to pawn. Block all of them. Actually, I'd go ahead and hire a lawyer to send them a cease and desist letter for the harassment. The ex-in-laws have zero claim to these rings. They wouldn't have a claim even if they were heirlooms. The cruelty to a recent widow is astounding. I'd also go ahead and overshare this harassment on Facebook. Make sure you tag them as well. Not A-Hall. What? Yeah, he paid for them. As gifts for you. But as you were his spouse, his assets go to you anyway, unless he had a will that states otherwise. Where the hell are these people getting the idea they have any claim over anything of his, much less something as sentimental as wedding and engagement rings? Not A-Hall. And as for the legal threats, they can try, but they don't have a leg to stand on. They're not even his. They're hers. So awful. Honestly, your husband is gone. As sad as it is, cut ties with his family. That's so toxic. You were his wife, meaning his things now belong to you anyway. They were gifts. I hope you can get through this. It must be awful, but keep those rings as memories. Not A-Hall. I'm highly considering it. It is so strange, as this nastiness only happened after he passed. They were great in-laws besides that, but this is starting to bother me. Do not give them your rings. You may be feeling pressured now, but you'll regret doing so the rest of your life. These people are grieving, but that's no excuse for this behavior. Stand your ground. If they threaten you with legal action again, tell them you'll file a restraining order for harassment. This is not what your husband would have wanted. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for prioritizing a baby blanket for my sister's baby over my sister-in-law's? So here's the deal. My sister found out she was pregnant back in November. It was a huge surprise, but such a good one. My sister was diagnosed with PCOS and endo when she was in high school, and her fertility was badly affected. She and her husband were trying for 6 years with no success. And then, surprise! She asked if I would make the baby a blanket because I started getting into making baby clothes and blankets at the start of the pandemic, and she wanted something from me for her baby. She offered to pay me, but I said it was a gift. And I started working on it with all my spare time because I'm still learning and growing. And when we found out my sister was having more complications and this would be her one and only, I decided to pour even more into it, making sure it's perfect for my nephew when he arrives. Now that they have a name, I can even start working on the name when I've finished the actual blanket. About 6 weeks after my sister told me she was pregnant, I found out my husband's sister is also expecting. Around 3 months into her pregnancy, she shared that she and her husband were struggling with money and asked if I could make her a blanket. I was honest that I couldn't guarantee I would have one ready for when baby is born, but I would get to work on one as soon as I could, and was clear it would be a few months. She asked why, and I explained I had already committed to making one for my sister, and was still so new I was taking my time and wanted to make sure it was perfect. My answer seemed to be okay with her, but then when she found out that I was true to my word and hadn't started in the new year, she was upset. It's been a thing a lot more lately because she keeps wanting a blanket to be ready and asking me about it. She told her family she was hurt that I was prioritizing my sister's over hers, and that she felt both should get the same time and attention. I feel bad because she and her husband are struggling more now. Long story, but one of their kids has some medical issues and they've had some house issues. But she has her family, and everyone is pitching in to help, and even my husband and I have given them money to help them out. My sister just has me, and our husbands, of course. But we come from parents who don't care, and she was always the big sister who was there for me, doing stuff for me. So I want to do this for her and for my nephew. And yet, I feel bad because my sister-in-law has told me I'm hurting her by prioritizing one over the other. She called me Nahal the other day for prioritizing my nephew over my niece, which is how she sees it, and it's making me feel all the worse. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Your sister-in-law is just entitled. I was thinking the same thing. She was working on her sisters first, So why should she have to drop working on her nephew's blanket, who would be their only child, just to start the sister-in-law so it would be ready in time for her baby to be born? I'm really curious as to why she thinks her baby, which won't be blood related to Opie and she already has a child Opie didn't make a blanket for, is more important than her sister's child, who will be her only child. It is a very generous gift Opie has agreed to. It is not needed before baby gets home. Baby can't even sleep unsupervised with a blanket, so it's not like a get this done or my baby will be cold thing. And yes, sister-in-law, Opie is prioritizing her actual sister over you. Get a grip. Not day-hole. You were already working on sister's blanket first anyways. It's common sense that you would start your sister-in-law's either later or after you finished your sister's blanket. Right. If she had been working on sister-in-law's blanket first and dropped it for her sister's blanket, I could understand her being hurt. Even then, stirring up drama wouldn't be okay, but feeling hurt would be natural. In this case, however, it's just entitlement. They have made blankets that have taken me someone's entire pregnancy to finish. So if someone else comes up pregnant while making the blanket, they'll get a hat and maybe some matching booties. I can finish that in a couple days. Not day-hole. Of course your sister is more important to you. Your sister-in-law is an entitled a-hole. Your sister asked first, and she's your sister. Keep going with your plan as you originally decided. You're not in the wrong. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to change my last name like my siblings? It's me, 16 male, and my 3 other siblings. Jordan, 19 male, my twin brother Louis, 16 male, and my sister Bella, 14 female. Our parents got divorced 4 years ago. My dad was cheating on my mom. He came out and told her, so they split. We were all mad at my dad for a while, especially me because we were always close, so it hurt knowing he did this. We didn't talk for a year as he said he'd give me space till I was ready. Then after that, we started talking again. He only had us few days out of the week, but that changed a while back. My brother and my sister decided they didn't want to go with him at all, so they're at mom's full time and he only sees them every other weekend. I'm the only one that wanted to get split custody, so like 1 week with him then 1 week mom, which they were all mad at. They still hate my dad for cheating, I get it. Because to me, I haven't looked at him the same, but not mad anymore because it happened already years ago. After they broke up, my mom started going out with my stepdad, Martin. They got married last year right before lockdown, but he was already living with us a long time. We don't talk much, but he's chill. They do more stuff with him than I do, but because they have more time than me, and they like him a lot. I do too. Before Father's Day, my siblings and my mom came to me about a surprise they wanted to do for Martin, and the surprise was all of us changing our last names to his. Everyone, but I said no and said I like having my last name. They can do it obviously, but I'm not interested. That got everyone mad, especially my mom. She talks a lot of crap about my dad all the time, so she asked me why I still want to have a last name of a piece of turd. I told her he's still my dad. He cheated, but he still always tried to be a good dad, so I don't hold that against him anymore. We have these fights all the time whenever I'm going to his house, so I just got tired and ignored them. But they bugged me a lot about doing the change with them because it would mean a lot to Martin if we all did it. I wasn't even there for Father's Day. I went to my dad's, and they're mad I ruined it since they wanted it to be an everyone thing. And I'm the only one not changing my last name now. I don't know why they think I'm being a a-hole for not wanting to change my last name just because of what my dad did a long time ago already. It is not like I consider Martin my dad. But they acting like I am, so am I? Not a a-hole. Your dad might have cheated, but your mother is the a-hole for getting her kids in the middle of all of this. It's parental alienation. Yes, 100%. What Opie's mother is doing is emotional mistreatment. I hardly have a relationship with either of my parents due to alienation, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. I'm sorry, Opie. I hope you have access to therapy. Not a a-hole. Not a a-hole. While your dad was a bad husband to your mom, you consider him to be a good father to you. If you want to keep his last name, that's perfectly fine. Even if your dad was terrible to you, if you don't want to change your last name, you don't have to. Yeah, like I know what he did was messed up, and took me a while to stop being mad at him for what he did. But at the end of the day, he's still a good dad. Not a a-hole. What will happen when Martin disappoints them or his relationship with your mom sours? What if Martin cheats on her in the future? I have a relative who was like this with their very blended family, basically pressing the kids to all change their last names till every single one of them did, even though everyone's other bio parent was still alive. I always thought it was not healthy. It isn't healthy. It's commonly done by people who try to raise the other parents. It's a toxic behavior often done by people who have a strange need for a partner. Am I the a-hole for not babysitting for my sister-in-law anymore after she called the police on me? My sister-in-law and I have an agreement. She watches my kids 3 days a week, and I watch hers 3 days a week. This agreement has stood since March 2020 without issues. Any changes have been discussed weeks in advance. A couple weeks ago, we had an argument. The next day, I brought my kids to her house, dropped them off, and left. I didn't speak to my sister-in-law because when one of us is in a rush like I was, it's standard for us to just let the kids out, stay in the car, and drive off when you see the door open. I drove to work about 40 minutes away. When I got there, I had about 20 missed calls and even more texts, all from my sister-in-law, all saying she didn't want to watch the kids given our argument. Her first text arrived a little before I got to her place, but I didn't see it until I got to work because my phone is always on silent when I drive. I rang her, said I'll arrange to work from home, then come get the kids. She said I have 45 minutes to get back to her place or she would call the police. I told my supervisor the situation, and she said I could leave after I did a few things. This delayed me 20 minutes. When I got back to my sister-in-law's just over an hour later, she said she'd already called the police when the 45 minutes ran out. I then had to stick around long enough to tell the officer that I didn't abandon my children. There was just a communication issue. Sister-in-law and I had another shouting match later over this. I arranged other childcare for my kids, and I've been mostly ignoring her since. However, she reached out and apologized, and has asked if I'd be willing to go back to the old childcare arrangement. I've told her to go screw herself. I work with kids. If I got child abandonment in my record, I would never work in my field again, which she knew, and her calling the police was a massive overreaction. So if she needs a babysitter, she can go whistle for all I care. She said that if I checked my phone, talked to her that morning, or came back when I was supposed to, she would not have needed to call the police. And I did this to myself, as she gave me a warning with that first text, and I could have checked my phone or spoken to her directly when I got to her place, all of which she says she would have done if she were in my position, given that we'd argued the night before. I've told her that if she thinks I'm babysitting for her, she's freaking delusional, and she's on her own. Because of my refusal, it's looking like she may have to quit her job, because my brother and her would pay more for a babysitter than they would earn from her working. My mother and brother have both called me Nihal because there were no consequences to her calling the police, and that while she overreacted, she's apologized. So if I really forgive her, I'll let us move on. This income loss would also mean that she, my brother, and my niece and nephew might need to move somewhere cheaper, that my brother might have to take on extra hours at work, and in an extreme scenario, they may even be completely unable to live independently, meaning they'd have to move in with their parents, who live several hours away. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. The only delusional person here is sister-in-law. Who calls the police on an essential worker out of spite? Let her struggle to find childcare or lose her job. You could have easily lost yours. In the name of full disclosure, I'm not exactly an essential worker, but my service has remained open, and I need to go into my workplace a few days a week to get confidential documents, among other things. It could have been bigger than your job. It could impact the custody of your kids. Your family's delusional if they think you are the a-hole. Your sister-in-law's actions have consequences, and would be lucky if you ever let her be close to your kids ever again. If your mom or anybody else complains you do not look after the kids, they can look after them themselves. Not the a-hole. Don't let her reel you back in. She still blames you for her calling the police, which means she isn't sorry and would do it again. Her losing you as a babysitter is a consequence of her actions. Forgot that part. That's essentially a non-apology if it ever was one. She said that if I checked my phone, talked to her that morning, or came back when I was supposed to, she would not have needed to call the police, and I did this to myself. Basically, she darvoed. Deny, accuse, reverse victim, and offender. Not only it is gross to up and decide to not watch the kids as per your agreements because she is mad at you, indeed take it out on the kids, but also to let you know by text after you had already left. She was trying to create another argument. She beyond escalated this to a place it never should have gone, calling the police and risking your licensure. Your mom and brother need to take a flying leap though for encouraging you to sweep this under the rug. She has shown you her true colors. Now believe her and follow your gut instinct of cutting her out. And if she complains that she has to leave her work, remind whichever flying monkey she sends to harass you that she did this to herself. Not the a-hole, OP. Not the a-hole. She wanted to escalate it? Enjoy the outcome of the escalation. I'm annoyed that the brother and mother-in-law aren't telling her that she messed up. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for saying that taking care of my kids by myself was relaxing? My wife thinks I am devaluing her contribution to our family and implying she's got it easy. My 40 male, wife 35 female, and I have 2 kids. My wife is a stay-at-home mom while I am an air traffic controller. My son is 13 months old and my daughter is nearly 3 years old. Our issue occurred because my wife has been a bit stir-crazy during this pandemic and feels trapped being at home constantly. I try to help by having weekend outings outdoors, but there is only so much we can safely do. She was particularly upset when she found out that because her parents and siblings who live in another state have finally been fully vaccinated, they were going to have a get-together and spend a weekend together after a year apart. She initially intended to take the kiddos with her, but due to scheduling issues with some important doctor's appointments for my son, she wouldn't be able to go. I suggested to her that she still goes, and I'll take care of the kiddos while she's gone, and use some time off of work. She initially left and said there was no way I could handle the kids on my own, and that daddy playtime after work hasn't prepared me for handling 2 kids on my own. I was pretty miffed by this comment, and told her I guarantee I can handle it. I'm an ATC. It's not like I can't handle stress. We discussed it further, and I told her I really think she needs to take this trip for the sake of her mental health. After some convincing, she decided to go. And over the course of Tuesday to Sunday, I took care of the kids, cleaned, and took care of all meals. I got my son to his appointments. We played outside since we finally got some nice weather, and it all went off without a hitch. The problem was that I think my wife thought I was going to be completely out of my depth, and sitcom husband style have the Rugrats destroying the house while I helplessly looked on. This is not what happened. I enjoyed my time with my kids, and throughout the week as she checked in, multiple times a day, she seemed a bit annoyed how calm I was about taking on this responsibility by myself. When she arrived home and saw everything was good, she seemed relieved. But when I commented that I had an extremely relaxing week/weekend with the kids, she blew up on me and said I was being completely insensitive and that acting like I had it so easy was like coming into her workplace and commenting on how easy her job is. I disagree. I was just trying to assure her that the kids didn't get neglected and that it wasn't a hardship to take care of them. She doesn't see it that way. Am I the a-hole? No a-holes here. I have 2 kids and 3 step-kids, and it's a nightmare. Looking after the kids on your own for a few days isn't something that's going to cause burnout in comparison to being with them 24/7. So your ability to cope in this situation isn't a representative example for her to be resentful over, or you to be particularly proud of. Having said that, isn't ADC the job with the highest self-harm rate in the world? If that's true, no wonder you're good at dealing with stress. Not the a-hole. Rather than being excited that her husband can take care of the kids with no issues and using it as a chance to take breaks more often, which it sounds like she needs, she wanted you to fail somehow? Perhaps it is her stress talking. I don't think what you did was devaluing at all. My husband finds it fun to take all 3 kids grocery shopping, and I think it is a nightmare to wrangle 3 kids at a large grocery store with samples tempting them everywhere. So, guess who does the grocery shopping with all 3 kids while I make a nice family meal for us on Saturday? Pre-pandemic, of course. She sounds a bit on edge and needs more breaks and possibly some counseling to help her. Maybe set up every month a full day or 2 for her to do something with friends. Being a full-time stay-at-home mom is hard since it feels like a never-ending day with no markers or milestones. I about climbed the walls during maternity leave with each of my kids, and I adored being at home with them. Take care of her and your family. You are doing great. It sounds like your wife really needed that trip. Also, you weren't being insensitive about her caretaking abilities. She's the one who was being insensitive. How long of an opinion does she have of you that she thinks you'd be utterly incapable of watching your own kids for a few days? Not a-hole. No a-holes here. You also need to realize, as does she, that you had them for a weekend by yourself. She has them nearly all the time by herself. It's much easier to get the kids to behave well when it's new but still a parent, especially when things go off without a hitch. The longer you do it, the more hitches you'll come across. Lockdown is getting to her, but you're not being insensitive as you should be, I personally feel. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not cooking after everyone insulted what I was making? I'm 17 female, the oldest of 5. Ever since COVID, my parents have left me in charge at home and have me cooking dinner most nights, 6 out of 7 to be exact. My siblings and I are going to school virtually, so we're in the house together all day, although they're going out to friends more now. There were always complaints about the food I was cooking. Don't want pasta, nor rice, why more chicken? Used up too many groceries for one dish. But lately, it has been bugging me more. I made pizza one night. I did a regular pizza because I was tired of complaints about the choices I was making. But even that wasn't good enough. My siblings all wanted more cheese and said it was horrible. Siblings are 15 male, 14 male, 12 female, 10 female. My dad wanted pineapple and ham on his pizza. My mom said pizza wasn't what she wanted to come home to on a Wednesday afternoon. I said nothing. I didn't even show I was frustrated. But the next day, I didn't make them anything. I made myself some spicy chicken noodles. Had it all cleaned up and everything before anyone got home, and then everyone was home and they were hungry and complaining. And then my parents exploded because they said I was being petty and rude, and they threatened to ground me because I didn't do all my chores. I told them they should have thought about that before crapping all over everything, and I was doing more than enough. And why ground me when I never even leave the house anyway? I'm basically a live-in nanny at this point, and I get treated worse than they would treat a paid nanny. They said it was a wrong move to let them go without food, especially my siblings. I guess I can see why that would be an a-hole move, but honestly, they should be more appreciative too. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. All 4 of your whiny siblings are old enough to minimally operate a microwave. Your parents are fools to think that grounding a person that is home all of the time is going to have any effect. Maybe there could be a night for each sibling to make a dinner. Your parents could cook on the weekends. Seriously, my 8-year-old literally made breakfast for my husband, 3-year-old, and me this morning. Granted, it was toast and, already, hard-boiled eggs, but it was buttered, salted, and plated when I came down. Literally no excuse for one person out of 6 to be expected to do all of the cooking with these age ranges. Yes, my daughters were making their sack lunches in 1st grade, under supervision to prevent a bag full of only chips, cookies, and fruit roll-ups. I hope that things get better for the OP. Not the a-hole, and this is classic. Pawning off this much work on the oldest daughter. Your parents should redistribute the chore load. No one should be forced to feed 7 people every night, especially if they're going to hear complaints about it. You have 7 family members, why not assign each one a dinner once a week? With some allowances made for the 10 and 12-year-old, of course. But even they should be able to learn to boil pasta and heat up sauce with supervision. Let me guess, you have to clean the dishes too? If I were you, I would have made my throwaway user named Basin Cinderella. Most of the time I clean up, yeah. Occasionally my mom has stepped in and done it, but it's normally paired with witching about how much there is to clean up. So, you do the cooking and cleaning for 7 people 6 or 7 days a week. What do those other 6 people in your household do for chores, other than eat your food and complain about it? My siblings don't do anything. My parents, I'm not even sure really. My mom cooks 1 night a week. They take care of their bedroom and bathroom, but other than that, I don't know. We have really messy areas of the home, but I'm only one person, and I'm not going to take all the housework on my shoulders either. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for being upset after my mother-in-law criticized my parenting and called my daughter disgusting? So I, 34 female, and my husband, 37 male, have 2 children, 12 female and 7 male. A few days ago, my husband, my kids, and I went on a walk with my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, and her kids. Don't worry, we all followed corona regulations. My kids were walking with their cousins when mother-in-law threw a disgusted look at my daughter and said, "You should really put her on a diet. Kids shouldn't be so fat and disgusting. What are you feeding her?" Just to clarify, my daughter isn't fat and has always been on the thinner side. I blew up at her and told her that I wouldn't allow anyone to talk about my children like that. But she got very upset and said, "I wonder why my son married such a snowflake that can't even handle the truth." This was the last straw for me, and I took my husband and the kids and left. But apparently, mother-in-law told the rest of the family something completely different, and they have been blowing up my phone non-stop. Reddit. Am I the a-hole here? Not the a-hole. Time for your husband to step up and keep his mom/extended family in check, or just go no contact. Piggybacking here because I grew up with a grandmother who, loving as she was in my teens, kept reminding me I should hit the gym more often. Would watch my food like a hawk when we were at parties, would ask me if I really needed to eat a second slice of pie or whatever, and would compare me to my slimmer sister or more athletic cousins. It took a toll. I was by no means fat. I would define myself as the curvier size 6. I'm from a place where sizes 0 to 4 are the norm. But always healthy and never had any issues with potential related diseases. It wasn't until my mid-20s that I stopped hearing her whenever she spoke about my body or weight. And in my teens, for someone who already had a flaky self-esteem, having her around was always like a kick. When my mom heard the comments, she would tell her to shut up and should reaffirm that I was perfect the way I was. But I already heard the comments. OP definitely needs to get husband on board, and they both need to be very clear with mother-in-law. Not the a-hole. Even if your daughter was overweight, that was a disgusting thing for your mother-in-law to say about a kid. Surefire way to cause an eating disorder no matter how much the kid weighs. I think people shouldn't talk about someone else's weight in general, but preteen and teen years are such formative years. I think we all especially need to shut up about their bodies. Not the a-hole. Keep your kids away from mother-in-law. It's toxic people like that that mess with kids' self-esteem. I hope your husband supports you. Not the a-hole. You are a fantastic mother defending your children against someone attacking them, especially a family member. I hope your husband has your and your daughter's back and isn't backing his mother. He has a choice. He's either on his daughter's side or his mother's. I gotta wonder, you said this was the last straw. What else has your mother-in-law been saying or doing? Also, in my experience, people who call other people snowflakes and people who can't handle the truth are bullies who just use that as an excuse to be hurtful and miserable human beings who, ironically, can't take the truth when people call them on it. Again, not only are you not the a-hole, you are a hero for standing up for your daughter. I wish my parents stood up to my grandmothers like you did.